here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello?
Hi, Jan. Are you available for UFO Association today?
Yes. I was wondering what happened.
Lost track of time with reality. I apologize, my bad, but we've got plenty of time. So what would you like to discuss today? We're live right now.
Okay, well, recently the government has more or less concentrated the UFO, or shall we say the UAP public relations in just one office in the government.
Oh, where'd they move it to?
Well, they moved it to DOD. But before,
really?
You had other, of course,
we
this
had
is
paranormal desk in most branches.
right.
So what's that now?
Well, it's in DOD, but it's in their public relations office.
Nice.
And
okay.
so they've done that now. Now, what's been happening though? They've been speaking out of all sides of their mouth.
That's new.
So it's nothing new. I mean, anybody that's been in ufology for a while knows that that's what's happened. So apparently, this is a way to get ahead of that. Navy's saying one thing, the Air Force is saying almost nothing, and DOD is saying, well, AATIP was a UFO investigation, and now they've changed their tune, and they're saying no, nothing involved in UFOs. So what I did, I put on. Or let me go back a little bit. We were discussing this online with several other people, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put up a list of when the government has been talked out of both sides of their mouth, and security slip-ups, or when there's leaks or things like that, or actually security investigation. What's that?
Are you going to start your own public relations department?
No. But
no. Well,
okay, so if you go to Project 1947 on Facebook, the first part of the list is up there.
All right.
With a number of things.
See Project 1947 on Facebook. I'm putting that on this TJMRCT radio description for today. See Project 1947 on Facebook.com. Okay, well, we've got that on there for trying to tell them how we're trying to get organized, folks, for 2020. It's not easy with everything changing. I've got 35 websites to control here with American Communications Online Broadcasting, and people are dying and people are leaving us their stuff. And Jan's trying to collect as many archives, hard copy in the old days as we can. So Wow, I'm in information overload myself, Jan. Right now, I've got to reorganize everything I'm doing, and I took the UFO Association down, but I have a basic. Let's see, I think I have the basic, but I know we're starting all over. So, I guess we'll do like the government. Let me look at UFO Association.org. Let's see what it looks like. Site can't be reached. Okay, hold on. It's not that I haven't already paid for it. I have, folks. The money's there and the files are there. But we're trying to reorganize with Jan and what the government and public relations is doing. All right, so I'll have to put that back up. But I'll say UFO Association organization.com may be the one I've got up basic. I guess you got to know how to look it up. Well, anyway, they want $10,000 from my old UFOassociation.com, or like 9,000 something. I'm not going to give it to them. So I'm using GN UFO Association. But right now, folks, you can find all that we're doing as independents right here and on GN's. And then I've got a whole bunch of files. We're going to try to get them together. UFO Association organization.com maybe. Let's see if that'll come up. That comes up. All right, I've got so many, folks. UFO Association organization.com is just to let you know what our phone number is and how we're going to generate all this. So that's up anyway, UFO Association organization.com. So now we're going to get all these different, I guess we're going to carry events, links, archives, and all of that together. So, all right. Well, write that down, Jan, UFO Association Organization.com right now. That's a quickie, what we call just a quick page. And then we can add stuff on there with TJ Marcici Radio, where we're broadcasting from now. So welcome to UFO Association Organization, meaning we're going to do our best to organize our files and our links. And Jan, under Project 1947, you can go on Facebook. Now let me try that. So I'm going to put in Project 19. Can you hear me, Jan?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, I'm going to put in Project 1947. It's showing me .com because I always go to that. But let me put on Facebook. And I'm going to see if that project, okay, here it is right away. Project 1947 home Facebook. It's coming up on my Google search, folks. So we want to help you as much as we can. It comes up Project 1947, but you need to go in there and put your address. It's at PJ1947, I guess. Is that the name? It says search for at PJ1947 on Facebook or in Messenger to find this page easily, folks. So it's Facebook.com. Write this down, folks. Facebook.com / you know how we all have a Facebook page? Because last week, Jan and I were talking about, but I couldn't find it, but I found it now. And then it's PJ1947. So PJ, like PJ, wearing your pajamas, 1947. Now, you want to tell them why you named it PJ1947 in social media on Facebook?
It wouldn't let me go any further until I came up with a short version. That's all.
Okay. Well, there you go,
Facebook's, Facebook is sometimes a real problem in using it, because it'll tell you have to do this now or you can't go any further. So I had to come up with a shortened version so I could put some more stuff up there. So that's why I came up with that.
Okay, it's asking me why I would prefer to. It's saying, do you want to endorse it or something? I said Project 19. So it says, why do you want to endorse Project 1947? I don't know why it's asking me. I do radio shows.
I don't know what Facebook is. All I wanted was a blog, and they made it into a commercial enterprise, and they're constantly telling me, do you want to advertise to these people or that people? It only costs $30.
Oh, that's the way.
I just wanted a place on Facebook where I could have a blog, but they first they insisted that I was Seventh-day Advocate Church.
And Seventh-day
Adventist? Because at one time I guess the Seventh-day Adventists were interested in UFOs, so it was forcing me to put a Christian thing on there. I'm saying,
really?
Hey, Facebook, it's Facebook. Come on, stop doing this stuff.
Did
you
you get
can't.
Attention?
It says what's your blog about? So I said UFOs. That's not allowed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they started going to you. I said, okay, scientific blog, not allowed. I'm saying,
wow,
this was such a hard thing to get up there.
Really? So this is.
It was it's working fine now, except you can't. They stopped letting you put files on your in your posts
or Facebooks.
Yeah, on this, at least on Project 47, I tried to put a file up there. You can't do that anymore.
Wow, it's because everything costs now. They want to make money at it, right? So they're
charging
So
I'm just and this is they continue to insist this is a commercial site, and I said I wanted a blog.
So it's personal blog.
Yeah, there's some things that need to be fixed, but you ask for assistance, and you're talking to a computer. You're not talking to a person, so the computer doesn't understand what you want.
Sure. Well,
anyways, it's working out fairly well. I can post stuff on there and tell people it's there.
Okay, so Project 1947, folks, you heard it right here at Project 1947 at PJ1947. So as the Facebook.com/PJ1947, I'm looking at it /reference equals PY_C. So that must be the page that they've given you. So, folks, I'm doing the best I can to stay up on all this as a developer in algorithms and C++. So I just don't have enough time to go to school and do this. I have to learn all the time, and I can't keep up with social media anymore. It's grown so much. It's hard for one's. We've only got one brain. I wish we had more, but we are trying to help each other, Jan and I. So now, Jan, what did you want to just post certain things, and how did you get these?
No, I just posted that on yesterday. I just posted a list of.
Continue reading. It lets you continue reading. How'd you get to do that? It called it a blog. It says a post. Yesterday. Okay, here you go. It's a nice post. Part 1, comments on various developments with DoD spokespersons, investigations, and security with some historic perspective. All right. Well, you sound like a historian and a researcher. So you've got them numbered nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me see how far down you go. My goodness, this is a lot of research.
Right.
Goodness.
It's not complete. That's just part 1.
Goodness, you just did this yesterday? There's 15 points, and he says, Jan says, I agree with Greenwood. You can't trust anything the government says about UFOs. However, there are some I guess these are scans, are they not? You scan these in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
No, I wrote those on. I just wrote them in my post.
All right,
we were discussing this offline. We were discussing this with a number of people that
you had a group
are in the UFO field, and we were discussing why does the government keep contradicting itself?
Okay.
So
I
said, here is some of the reasons right here. They constantly put themselves in a bad light.
Would you like to read these, or would you like me to read them out loud and you discuss them? Or?
Well, we could discuss some of the other ones. I just wanted to let people know that here's the first part of it right there.
All right.
Let's put it like this. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Kenneth Arnold had his sighting in the first sight. The let's put it this way.
After the Foo Fighters, we start with Kenneth Arnold.
After the Foo Fighters and Ghost Rockets, Kenneth Arnold had his sighting on June 24th, 1947.
All right.
The next day, people, they were already commenting on it at the Pentagon and elsewhere.
And Fate magazine came out in 1946, so it was primed for that story where it was first introduced.
No, I think Fate magazine came out in 48, didn't it?
Oh Lord! Well,
yeah,
it
came out in 48.
Okay, I apologize. Fate magazine. I knew that it was in that, but I thought. Okay, I'm getting old, folks. It says Fate magazine. Wikipedia. Yeah, it says co-founded by Ray Palmer and Curtis somebody in 48. Okay, my
Curtis
bad. So
Fuller.
you were right.
Curtis Fuller. So
okay, well that's not my first. Curtis Fuller. Yeah. All right. So we've established that he saw this in 46 or 7 then, because we're
47.
starting with.
Yeah.
All right. So 40. The Foo Fighters were 46
the point,
prior.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
All right.
A couple of days after, a couple of days after he had his sighting, the military's already making comments about it. Well, we're going to investigate. No, we're not. There's nothing to it. It's a summer silly season stuff, and bring us, if there is such a thing, bring us one. Okay, so one of the spokesmen, I think he was in San Francisco, said on the 30th. Now this is 6 days after Arnold's sighting. The investigation is finished, and there's nothing to it. Of course, the only problem was UFOs didn't listen to what the government was saying, or the Air Force and that. On July 3rd, now this is a few days later, the editor of the Boise Statesman, the aviation editor, the guy that does all the flying news and everything, of the Boise Statesman newspaper, and he was also the he was also instrumental in forming the Idaho National Air Guard. He had done investigations, probably better than the Air Force had, whatever their initial investigation was. But he called General Twining at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Since he was an editor of a fairly big newspaper, and also because he was an Air National Guard, Twining talked to him. Now, this is a 3-star general. You don't usually just talk to people that call you up, but he did. And Johnson told Twining, this stuff is serious. And he told him, he said, hey, Kenneth Arnold's sighting is, this guy's a pilot, and he's a reliable person. He said, then he listed 5 sightings that that Twining might want to look into, which were all reliable people. So he talked about the forest fire watch on Mount Rainier had seen something about the same time that Kenneth Arnold had, and so this is the 3rd of July. This is just before the 4th of July, the long weekend, and so Twining signed off and told his number 2 man, General Bratnell, we're going to investigate UFOs. He was authorized to do that. He could sign off on a new project without getting authorization from the Pentagon. He could do that under his own authority. And he told Johnson, yeah, I'm doing this, and you can announce it in the newspapers, which Johnson did. And then over the 4th of July weekend, it made the newspapers over and over again because it was, everybody's off on a vacation and holidays, so it can't, there's not a lot of news going on, so they kept using that. So it went from the 30th of June 1947 to the 3rd of July. It had already changed again, and that's the characteristic of the military all during the UFO era, from the very first to what we're getting right now. Oh, AAITP was about UFOs. Louis Alonso said it's 100% about UFOs, and now the Pentagon spokesman is saying it had nothing to do with UFOs.
Oh, my.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Wow. So, now wait a minute. Are they calling Alonso a fibber, a disinformation agent, or what? How can they go against?
Well, they've even put out a thing that said that he was never in charge.
Oh, interesting.
So
there was never. Well, what did he call his desk or his department?
Well, he was
in the Pentagon, wasn't he?
Right, he was in the Pentagon, and he had. He was like in charge of a number of. He wasn't in charge, but he had oversight on a number of projects.
Okay.
But
well, that's just a slip of words. Like we say, we go do something, but we're under TDY orders, so nobody can track it down. Temporary duty orders.
This is not a mistake. These people are have a problem with coming up with the right answer. They have a problem coming up with the right answer. So
who's controlling the narrative? That's the key.
That was the problem when they started this thing, because the Navy was making comments and the DOD was making comments. Air Force made comments by saying we're not commenting.
Well, we're going to do the Allied Command Organization to include everybody and everything, we hope, including those off planet with our, I don't know if you want to say UFO Space Command or what we're going to call it, because every country, we've got so much space junk out there. I wish they would have made each country, whoever put it up should be responsible for getting it back down. But now it's falling to Earth and we're hitting little pieces. Now we're scared of paint chips. It's going to bust a satellite up. But now we're putting up more and more stuff up there. That's just in our local space, local debris, So this is going to be an interesting 21st century. So not only do we have we have the real 3D deals now that man put up there. So we got some issues here. What are they going to do about? We've got the various companies, including those that are in charge of the scientists. We have virtual scientists. We have those that are in charge of all the debris. Different companies, different. This is confusing, because our unidentified flying objects and near-Earth objects, and now the space trash, are going to be different people. We have different companies doing different things. So you think we can get coordinated here, at least at a civilian level of understanding? Or, the human factor, us, we, as interdimensionals, well, we're dimensional 3D. Shouldn't we be able to coordinate this ourselves? We're the taxpayers, the voters. Well, now there you are. Good.
I don't know about that, but this was just an attempt to explore a few of the contradictions and
Well, you should call
that
this
the government has been involved in, and also where things have been leaked out, or people have been investigated, supposedly because they broke security. They breached security.
Oh, now that could have a lot to do with it, right there.
Yeah, so, okay, in 1960, Keogh wrote a book. Major Keogh wrote a book about his time at NICAP up to that time, from 57 to 1960. And one of the things he said, he had an appointment at the Pentagon to meet a couple of naval officers.
All right.
And he went to the Pentagon, and he talked to them. They told him, they said the Air Force is the one that has the investigative authority for UFOs, but we've been keeping track of Navy and Marine sightings. And so they gave him a few, or talked about a few with him, that were unclassified. So that was just, that's an interesting thing in the book. Okay. I guess some Navy guy or somebody that knows about the military called the FBI up, and they said, "What are you going to do about this? It looks like the Navy's broken security. This guy Keogh's got classified information. What are you going to do about this?" So the FBI investigated Keogh. And they found out that, no, he didn't get any classified information, even though the book said so. But this guy just wanted to start trouble, I guess.
Oh, my goodness. Well, what about Eberhard with UFOs? Do you like his book, to J. Allen Hynek? Should we talk about that too? Because that's back in that day, right? 48 to 84. Did you, are you familiar with it? Sure. UFOs and Extraterrestrial Contact Movement by Eberhard. Am I saying it wrong?
No. That's that's just a bibliography of where all the UFO articles are.
Okay, for CUFOs, right?
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
1910 to 1986 is the years J. Allen Hynek. And I met him, but you said you didn't, but you've been collecting all the hard copies at CUFOS in Chicago, right? And I've been to Chicago for the Global Pyramid Conference. But you said you did not. I started thinking about that the other night. You did not physically meet him in human form?
Who?
J. Allen Hynek.
No, I never met him.
Did you meet George M. Eberhard?
Yeah, Eberhard and I are working on something together.
Now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Well, that's good. We got this into the radio today.
What we're working on is an outline of UFO history.
Wonderful. Volume 2
and Eberhard,
Volume 1?
I guess he's got about, I'd say about 300 pages. Now, this is, like I said, it's an outline. It's not a big explanation of things, and it goes all the way back to 1688, so it's... and it goes through the 17th, 18th, 19th century, up to the 20th century, which is most of the entries. But it's basically events that happened, sometimes historical events, so you can get the context of things that are happening, not necessarily UFO events.
Okay.
And... I would say, my part of it is about 250 pages, and that just gets us up to 1964, and he's all the way up to 2000. So we combine our efforts together, So
Well,
the last time it happened, it's got to be way over 300 pages.
Is your associate and colleague Barry Greenwood assisting you?
No, not
Mr.
really.
Eberhardt?
No,
okay.
No, it's just Eberhardt and myself.
Okay. Well, you have so many associates in that by invitation only group, so that you meet in Chicago.
Yeah. So I haven't done anything on it for about 6 months now, and he hasn't done anything on it about 6 months. But I mean, we have things that most people don't know about. In 1892, there were a lot of sightings over Eastern Europe, from Germany to Russia, Ukraine, and all these other places.
Oh, Ukraine, high in visibility and news these days due to our President Trump.
At the time, Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire.
Oh.
And so they had all these sightings. Now, this is one of the earliest investigations that we know about. So the Russian Defense Ministry, the Imperial Russian Defense Ministry, decided they were going to have an investigation. Now, they thought these things were balloons. So they had a technical section in their intelligence machinery, and so they assigned this investigation to them. The Russians gathered accounts, and since they thought they were balloons, they also gathered weather data. So in some cases they said, well, the winds are blowing the wrong direction for a balloon to be going east at this time. So they just marked those off because they thought for sure they were balloons.
Well, were we working with the Russians, or is this
no, nobody was working with the Russians.
War?
This is just the Russians doing this on their own.
Oh, okay. So you have files of the Russian files as well in your Project 1947?
Well, I have some material from Ukraine.
Really? That's most interesting in this day and time. So the ufology and UFO research and extraterrestrial contact project crosses over into Ukraine as it does anywhere in the world. Would you say it's more unity in UFO files, people that do the work?
Well, we have things like language barriers, and for the longest time, the Soviet Union, it was impossible to do much work in there. The historical records weren't easily available and things like that. So, we almost know nothing about UFOs in India, for instance, or UFOs in China. We know a little bit more about UFOs in China than we know about India.
Who is our point of contact? Because we've had some incidences in India over people that want to speak in India and be told to come back to America. Ken Johnston was one of those gentlemen. And this had to do in the UFO business. But have we set up an international call, like there's 3 honks if you're in distress in a car out in the woods, international honk, honk, honk 3 times, Do we have a UFO call sign for international, how to get in touch with whoever the ambassadors are? Us, I guess, for the UFO Association, or should we establish each country a point of contact to help us? We've got plenty in India. What do you suggest? Can you add on your Facebook page?
I don't know. first of all, you got to find reliable people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not.
I don't know anybody in India. I don't know anyone in India.
I have plenty. We even have family relatives, so not a problem.
So
But
I don't know
the
anybody
UFO
in
business-
China. I don't know anybody in China or Indonesia or
We can do
South
China,
Africa. I
India.
joined a group in South Africa, but they're not interested in doing anything like looking in newspapers or stuff.
Okay.
They're just
I see the
interested about,
difference in clipping services.
speculating about the aliens. They're not interested in doing any kind of research. So.
Oh, no, physical hard copy if it's been in the news, different. And why do we, is that with Wikipedia guidelines as to what is and isn't reliable sources, citing our sources? Is that strictly journalistic? Why we only do clipping services or if it's been written about? Can you explain that to our UFO Association, please?
There's nobody to do it.
Well,
there's
if we
nobody
had those...
to monitor the newspapers or look in old sources or look in historical records. There's nobody to do it. There's not, and I don't know anybody. And
UFO
sometimes people show up for a while and then they go away. So South Africa is not very well covered.
UFO image clipping specialist, but that's not something out there. Okay, well, we'll have to work on the image clipping specialist. National UFO Reporting Center. Well, even to get those, if we could get those that have websites that are willing to spend their money on archiving in the USA would be a step in the right direction, even though each person has their own people, volunteers. Getting that organized would be a task.
So we knew there was an article in a magazine in South Africa called Outspan.
Oh. So
Outspan is a kind of a popular magazine in South Africa. It's it was very popular, and they talked to the South African government about 1953, and were able to get some reports out of the South African government, which doesn't happen very often.
Okay.
They also got some information out of the South African government that South Africa was sending its UFO reports also to England. They were copying. The South African Air Force was cooperating with the British. And so, anyways, this article in Outspan, I said, well, we got to get a copy of this article. So some ufologists have had this article over the years because they mentioned it in their UFO newsletters, but we didn't have a copy. We couldn't read what was in it. So I went down to the Library of Congress, and this is a really weird thing. They said, okay, yeah, we've got Outspan. We've got the magazine Outspan. It's on microfilm. You have to go into the storage area.
Oh.
So I'm saying, okay. I said, you got to go through this tunnel. So I'm looking where the tunnel is, and it says I'm under one of the streets there in Washington, D.C. I'm going across.
Yeah.
And I went in this tunnel for a long way, and I said, I must be under the Supreme Court building because I walked for so long. And there's all these microfilms and stuff. That's where the guy told me to go. He said, there's nobody over there. You just have to go in there. It's unlocked. You can go in there, and you can look for what you need, bring it out here, and you can look at it on microfilm. And I said, okay. So I went over there. I found Outspan. There's a box of Outspan on microfilm, but it doesn't go back to the right time. It didn't go back that far. So then so that didn't help out any. There were other articles in Outspan, but we already had those. So then we tried to write the National Library in South Africa. And they said, yeah, we have it. But every time we tried to ask them to make a copy, they wouldn't answer. So I guess Barry Greenwood wrote to the British Museum. They said they had copies. But then we found out they didn't have the right issue. Finally, we got Richard Thiem, who knows a lot of people worldwide because of his computer work. He actually had somebody that owed him a favor, and he said, "Will you go to the National Library in South Africa and get us a copy of this article?" So he did, and that's how we got one.
Wow, good.
But that
work.
was a real problem, because there are not that many people in South Africa that are interested in doing that kind of thing. You know, just going to the National Library and getting some stuff. I said, you know what? I've got all these lists of newspaper articles that we need to get from the 50s and 60s and 70s. Nobody's interested in doing that. That's too hard. So that's the problem with South Africa. India, like I said, I don't know anybody. Now, Hynek got a letter from the scientific advisor to the head of the Indian Air Force, and he sent Hynek a couple of UFO reports, and I think Hynek, I think sometimes he did things that were not helpful. I mean, this guy is a big muck-a-muck in the Indian military. Okay. Hynek got one of his guys to write a letter. He says, "I'm writing on behalf of J. Allen Hynek. Thank you for your interest. We appreciate you thinking about us." I'm saying, really, this guy is offering to exchange information with you, and you had somebody fop him off. You fopped him off. You didn't even sign the letter. That's what he should have done. Hynek should have at least signed the letter, saying, "Yeah, thanks for your interest, and we want to exchange any material you have, because we have nothing from India, almost nothing. Let's put it that way, very little."
Yeah.
And so that was a big mistake. That's a big mistake, because the scientific advisor to the chief of staff of the Indian Air Force was somebody that you should have cultivated.
Yeah.
I have written, people have written to me from India, and I have written back, but then you only hear from them one time.
Well, why don't we get a letter? You know, J. Allen Hynek was only one man and did the best he could, but
no, he was the head of CUFO, so he could have done something better then. That was a definite mistake. That's one of those mistakes, like when McDonald went to see him. McDonald was banging on his desk saying how this was a Hynek mistake that was too. It was bad. It was a bad mistake, and somebody needed to bang on his desk. I mean, he's just given all his correspondence to Dr. Beckman or other people to answer for him, and he should have answered that personally.
I understand. So this is so you do realize this is a public relations matter. So
yeah, that was a mistake.
We need to address that in this new group that we're doing our best to organize it prior to 2020. So we all know there's people that are cutting and clipping and writing books and doing
So,
different organizations.
So, of course, I'm Project 1947. When I started out, I went to Yale, because Yale has giant collections of newspapers from all over the world. And Yale
so in the
had...
very beginning, you went to Yale first. That was a choice you made.
Well, Yale was, it's here. It's right close by. I went down there.
Okay.
If you're not a Yale student or faculty, you can't use the library unless you pay a fee. So I paid a fee to use the newspapers. So they had Chinese newspapers. There were, before the communists took over, there were a number of Chinese newspapers in English. There's one in Singapore, and there's one in I don't think there was one in Peking, but there were several others in English. So I looked at those, and there were UFO cases in 1947 in China. Kind of amazing. In fact, in Hong Kong, they said there were rumors that the RAF had planes up about the 15th of July chasing UFOs. Now, I haven't ever been able to, it's just like a one-line thing. I've never been able to confirm that otherwise. But that's just, so that there was, like I said, there wasn't very much in English. But then recently, Barry Greenwood, he's got hundreds of Chinese items from Chinese newspapers, because the Chinese are dispersed all over the world. And these are all in Chinese, though. You put them in a translator, and all you get is a bunch of goofy information. So I guess Chinese translators aren't doing that well yet. Now, just the other day, I got a letter from somebody in Holland that said he would like to translate some Dutch UFO material into English.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah, that would be good. We've got some material that we could use him for.
Janet's here. I'm going to let Janet. Janet of Hawaii has joined us. She runs one of our UFO groups. Jan, you've talked to her before. She's a radio host. Janet?
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just checking in for a little while. I just wanted to give you a heads up. When my roofers come back from their lunch, they're going to start pounding again. I'll probably just go on mute and won't be able to contribute. But I'm just checking in, saying hi, and catching up on what you guys are doing. So you're talking about getting different UFO sightings translated into English so we can understand them?
Yes.
Is that what you were saying?
Well, that's what we were saying. We kind of got off subject. We started off with the government contradicting itself all the time. Like they're doing with the AAITP. The government says, first of all, it was a UFO. It did study UFOs. Now the spokesperson is saying no, they didn't. Like Barry Greenwood said, you can't trust anything that the government says about UFOs. And I went all the way back to 47, like I was telling her, back to 47. I put up a number of examples. Now, we weren't just talking about contradictions. Some of my colleagues and I, we were talking together on this subject, and we weren't just talking about contradictions. We were talking about places where the the government had started security investigations against people that had supposedly broken security about UFOs.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to tell. Well, you were mentioning Luis Elizondo and the study of unidentified flying objects as Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Now, that said it was formed in 2007. Have you gotten but it was dissolved in 2012. Have you gotten any data that you can substantiate separate from Luis?
No, because everything is contradictory. I have no data on this. This is a big pain in the neck, and the government is a pain in the neck. And let me tell you, to a certain extent, the TTSA is not very helpful here, and Elizondo sometimes isn't very helpful. He could talk for a long time and say not very much.
I was called to Daniel Inouye's office in Hawaii about this stuff a long time ago when I was over there.
Yes, and he was interested in this stuff.
Yes, he was. So he was working with people back in the day while I was over there. But now, are you saying that they're not saying that Robert Bigelow is a DIA contract or anything to do with that? Because that is in the history now, at least.
What do you mean the history? They keep saying it. They just said about. They just put out a clarification a few days ago saying AAITP had nothing to do with the UFOs. They just put that out a couple of days ago.
Okay, so are they saying it's just
it has nothing to do with UFOs. That's what they said.
Okay. I'm wondering if they're separating the space
No, you don't need to do this. You don't need to say, I'm wondering if. No, they put it out because they've asked them over and over again, clarify this statement. So that's what they did. It's not.
They clarified the statement. Okay, so there's no wondering. AAITP is not government affiliated, even though.
No, they didn't say that.
What did they say?
They said it had nothing to do with UFOs.
Okay. Well, that's not how we understand it all these years in media.
Well, it's just been 2 years now since we've known about
2
it.
Years.
But here's the thing. Elizondo at Huntsville said it was 100%. That's the only thing they dealt with was UFOs.
Luis Elizondo. Okay. Well,
right.
At least he gets. Yeah. So that's.
Like I said, that is one of the contradictions that's been going on since 1947.
All right. They start and they stop and they change. Change
is
inevitable.
They stop, they change. They say they don't have things and then they find it. In 1947 in September, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Air Materiel Command was asked by the Pentagon what was their opinion of UFOs. Now, a lot of ufologists don't understand the difference between when a general signs a paper, it's his opinion, or it's the organization's opinion. In September, what everybody likes to call the so-called Twining Memo, General Twining signed that after there was a meeting at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with with engineers, the main engineers and the main intelligence people. They had a conference there. And they came up with this letter and then General Twining signed it. It's not General Twining's opinion. It's the Air Materiel Command's opinion, which ufologists have trouble getting that. So that letter, the Air Force said for almost 2 decades that it didn't exist. It was talked about in Ruppelt's book. They said for almost 2 decades it did not exist. Then when the Condon Committee started, they all of a sudden produced a copy of the letter. This is what the government's been doing forever.
Well, they definitely need a public relations office, and that's what you said. They moved it to DOD Public Relations Office.
Right, they did. Now Susan Goff is, I guess she's the spokesperson. She's going to be the spokesperson for everything in DOD, Army, Navy, Air Force. So she's and as somebody pointed out, she's a very sharp person, and she's a great wordsmith too. So I guess that's what you need in public relations, somebody that can talk pretty well.
It helps.
Yeah. So.
Well, we can do our own independent research, as we're all doing as individuals, by bringing anybody together to work, and then also have public relations work with the government. And now AAITP is back in DOD and public relations. So are we going to have another place we can go, or we still go back and just do all the research in each department? Are they doing this as of 2020 to coordinate
They're doing it
efforts?
I guess they're doing it as of, like a week ago. She is the overall spokesman for everything.
Did you cite that for us in Facebook for blogs, social media data?
It's on. It's on Facebook several places. I can send you something, but it's on there. It's on there.
All right, I'm looking on your
It's not on my thing.
Slide.
I'm not talking about that yet. That was going to be part 2. I was going to start talking about that in part 2 of that compilation there, because when I said we were talking together, we weren't just talking about the government contradicting itself. We were talking about leaks, government leaks, places where people have said things that were within the government that were incorrect or wrong, were in error, and security investigations, and things that went on for years, like in 1952, Keogh made an appointment at the Pentagon, and they agreed to give him a number of unknown cases out of Project Blue Book. They gave him 41 cases. For the next 3 or 4 years, when he put them in his book, Flying Saucers from Outer Space, in the meantime, the people that gave him the stuff in the Pentagon rotated out or left the Pentagon because the Korean War was over, so they had a drawdown afterwards. And the Air Force started saying, he never got that stuff from us. He's lying.
Oh, my.
I mean, so he finally said, I'm going to sue some people because they're saying that I'm a liar, that I didn't get these, even though I've got letters from the people that did give him, Al Chop and Edward Ruppelt, that I did get these. They were cleared specifically for Keogh. And the Air Force said, no, he didn't get those from us. He's made these up. They even gave a statement to Menzel, and he put it in the Look magazine, saying that this is hogwash. The Air Force says it's hogwash. So Keogh finally said, "Look, if you think that I have made this stuff up, call me back to active duty and court-martial me." And he said, besides that, I'm going to sue several Air Force officers, including a colonel named O'Mara, personally sue them for defamation of character. So then the head of the Air Force Information Service, general officer, said, "Well, yes, we did do this. There's a misunderstanding here." So he had to get his senator from Virginia involved in that too. So that's just one thing. Now they went after Keogh during his career a number of times. It's a civil rights problem. The Air Force, gets criticized all the time. At about the time of the Korean War in the 50s, it was they could not provide close air support. Marine Corps General Chesty Puller said in an interview for the press, he said, "The Air Force neither knows nor practices close air support." That's a pretty damning thing.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that felt that way, and there was a lot of comment in the press about that. Nobody ever went on after these people personally, harassed them, went to their publisher and challenged things that were in their books. When people said the Air Force budget was too high, the Air Force didn't go around saying that the information that Keogh has was made up and he didn't get it from us, even though he could establish that he did get it from the government. They went after him personally as a private citizen. Like I say, the Air Force budget's too high. I feel like that's something the Air Force would want to answer, and really go after somebody. But they didn't. It's just okay. That's his opinion. Yeah, right. But with Keogh, apparently, if you contradict the Air Force on anything, it's not allowed, and we'll go after you as a personal thing. It's like they're hurt. They're personally hurt. I never understood that, and I never understood how people at the time could not see that this is a really it was a civil rights issue, quite frankly. This is a freedom of speech issue. The Air Force insisted on controlling the Armstrong Circle Theater story on UFOs. And Keogh was supposed to appear there. They had to approve what everybody said before they would agree to participate. They had veto power over what everybody said. I can't see a military organization doing that. That's an infringement of freedom of speech. What the heck's going on here? This is supposed to be a silly subject. It's supposed to be a marginal subject. And this is the way they're behaving. Now, they don't care when somebody says, "Oh, you can't do your job. You can't provide close support. They didn't care about that. That's just a difference of opinion. But they actually went after Keogh for years, like this. And internally, the things they said about him were just unbelievable. So we were just discussing that. That's why that list on Facebook is just the first part of the list we were discussing. It wasn't just.
Right.
It wasn't just the contradiction about what does AAITP really do. It was all during the whole span of the UFO era.
Janet, just so you know, Facebook.com is, then you go /PJ1947. And then he discussed it with a lot of people.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait, where do I go? Go to
Facebook.com.
I'm on Facebook.
His page is /PJ1947. And he's made that as his blog to discuss things such as topics he discusses with many other people in the social media format, such as Facebook. So he has a post
Project
yesterday.
1947.
Yes. And if you look at his post yesterday at 2:26, this is a good thing that he had noticed or came up. Can you cite your source for this? I don't know if you'd call it a controversial topic. You have some aggressive feelings about it, I can tell. Because they've changed AAITP into DOD now. And he said we could discuss that. And he's got this in this project. Oh, there goes Janet Saws. Janet, you'll have to
let me put it on mute.
But Janet, so you know, and then I have another show to
They're
do
back from lunch.
after this one.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I have a show at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. But go ahead and look that up. But you just see right there, that's his, as of yesterday. He did a really good job of putting several numbers. Part 1 comments on various developments with DOD spokespersons, investigations, and security with some historic perspective. Okay, I need to put an R in security there, Jan. So you can tell we do books, and I make mistakes all the time. So 1 through, I think it was 15, and then I guess we're going to have to do a story on that. This looks pretty good, Jan. And you've got a slider here. Did you know how to add the slider with your pictures, or did it do it automatically for you?
What's that?
You've got a slider in your document.
The reference to Project 47?
Yeah, it has continue reading, and then you have a slider on there. In developing, we call that a slider.
Okay, whatever that is, it's an article from Project 1947 online. So,
Seattle FBI UFO reports. So you cited some documents. It says, I agree with Greenwood. You can trust anything. You can't trust anything. You cannot trust anything the government says about UFOs. But then he has a slider here, folks, with several documents here. Now, there's 15 points that have come. Janet, that was in a conversation. And so Janet would be interested, I'm sure, because Luis Elizondo, we've mentioned several times with AAITP, and now it's going under public relations in DOD. So back to DOD. So will they be in the Pentagon? Will this? Tell me your insight on that. So AAITP will not do UFOs, period, or UAP.
No, that's not what I said, and that's not what. No.
They never handled
didn't do anything with UFOs. That's what the DOD is claiming now.
Interesting. Just not.
Elizondo said they were 100%.
Huh.
And then now they're saying, no, we didn't do anything. We were advanced aircraft threats. the next 40 years, we're looking at problems in the U.S. in other countries. So
I see. It's a play on words.
It's not a play on words. They're lying. One way they're lying or another. Either it has something to do with UFOs or it doesn't.
Unidentified flying objects, and then we do an unidentified anomalous phenomena, and we've seen Hillary Clinton
UAP or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either
UAP.
it has something to do with this or it doesn't. So if you make a statement at one point, I'm not talking about Elizondo's statement, but I am talking about DOD did make a statement at one time that yes, it was. So then Glassell, a Swedish guy, and John Greenwald, Black Vault, asked for further clarification. And so the latest thing that they put out to Greenwald and Glassell, almost the same couple of days they put it out to these guys, saying that it didn't have anything to do with UFOs.
So now everyone's going to go
in and look for that. That's a contradiction from what they've said before. It's a contradiction from what Elizondo said. They've said that Elizondo wasn't in. They put out one statement where they said Elizondo was never involved with them, and people have disputed that. So it's like I said, it's the same thing we have for the last 70 years with UFOs. They are constantly saying that one thing, and then a few days later they'll say something else. So that's one part of what we were discussing. We were also discussing times when there were possible security breaches, or when there were investigations about people in the UFO field, like Keogh, when he said he went over and talked to the guys in the Navy, and somebody complained to the FBI that he was revealing classified information in flying saucers top secret. And you can go to the FBI website and look up Donald E. Keogh, and there's the there's the FBI investigation, which they more or less cleared him on. Now, when Al Chop gave his material to Keogh in 1952, after he left the Pentagon, he was the subject of a security investigation. And they said he was guilty, but we're not going to pursue it. So Keogh, like I said, he had to threaten to sue certain Air Force officers and get his senator to involved in this. And he also demanded to be called back on active duty and court-martialed if he was lying, if he was giving false testimony. So finally the Air Force had to say, yes, we did give you 41 cases from Project Blue Book, which were at the time termed unknown. But they had been saying that he made them up, that his claim that they came from the Air Force was, I think it was Menzel that said it's hogwash. Menzel was given that statement to use in a magazine article. So this is, like I say, this is some serious stuff that's been going on for ages. Now, the other thing we were talking about is they claim that certain things don't have them, or they've lost them, or they never existed. And like I was talking about the supposed Twining memo, they said for almost 2 decades that they didn't have it. There was no such thing. When the Condon Committee started, they produced it. And when I went to the National Archives, I was able to find copies of this in a number of files. It existed. But the Air Force contended that it did not exist. So that's where that list started from. Now, sometimes it may just be a mistake. The other thing that Colonel O'Mara talked about was before Sputnik went up, Clyde Tombaugh, the astronomer that discovered Pluto, was doing a search for natural satellites around the Earth and the Moon. He was doing a search. He got money from the Army to do this research. And he gave a talk before a astronomy class at the University of New Mexico, and some of the stuff leaked out, and so he was quoted. He wasn't quoted, but his professor and mentor was quoted as saying, "There's secret satellites that are seen around Earth." And so what would the origin of those be, obviously? So it was in Aviation Week also. So when somebody asked Colonel O'Mara out at Project Blue Book, he confirmed. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, of course, he had no way of confirming that. What he said is actually, I've read it. What he probably meant to say was, I probably read this in a newspaper, but he confirmed it. He said something else that was very strange. He said in 1954 they were getting 700 cases a week, and that's not true. They were not getting 700 UFO cases a week. About every week, the Air Defense Command investigated 700 pickups on their radars or by the Ground Observer Corps, and as they investigated them, they whittled that 700 cases down to nothing, to very, very low numbers. So they were not getting 700 UFO reports. They were getting several hundred objects in the sky that they couldn't immediately identify. Sometimes they'd send planes up to intercept them, and they find out they're balloons or something like that. So,
are you
that was
citing
probably a personal, by Colonel Merrill, personally putting out that information that he didn't have any way of backing up. But at the same time, he also said that Keogh never got anything from the Air Force. So he was one of the targets that Keogh was going to sue. The Pentagon made him write a letter of an apology to Keogh. O'Mara had to write a letter of apology, and to the people that he told that to. He told people that Keogh never got any cases from the Air Force. And so he had to personally write letters to everybody that he had told that to, including Keogh. He had to write an apology letter because Keogh threatened to sue him. So some of this stuff is really unusual, and that's what we were talking about.
Very good synopsis.
Yeah.
In-depth synopsis. Now, regarding the satellites, with our reports and multi-data that we're collecting and featuring in our archives, Is at least an annotation done for the 2,218 satellites that are currently orbiting Earth? Do you have that anywhere cited? So someone is keeping up with what is there, or do you leave that up to?
Well, NORAD is keeping up with what there should be. There is a list of satellites at any one time. Now, I don't know if they go into the small stuff, the junk that's just running around out there.
Well, there has to be. Yeah, we have scientists keeping up with that, but in different groups. But I can't cite them right now. But this is going to be a lot of work to do. The UFO Association with proper.
There is a guy that does keep track of the reentries.
The data reentry. Do you know?
When the satellites come into the atmosphere and burn up, he does keep a record of those.
Right, and then we have some museums of space junk that's fallen to Earth, various places, and some are huge that aren't burning up. So we need to enclose that as it is unidentified flying objects. To be quite honest, a lot of them.
Until it isn't. It is till it isn't.
Some of the aluminum is even falling, and it's supposed to. We thought aluminum would burn up, but it's not. So this is another form of intelligence that I don't know how they're going to collect all this. If you're saying today was about AAITP and you're starting your blog based on the fact that AAITP says they never had anything to do with UFOs.
AAITP never said that. AAITP hasn't said anything. They have said nothing. The Defense Department said that AAITP never investigated.
Department of Defense. Okay, well, this is interesting. We need to get that source.
Office
Space Force.
of Public Information.
All right, DOD. So Space Force becomes sixth branch of Armed Forces. Is one of the last things I looked up under DOD, and that was a picture of Vice President Mike Pence at the Pentagon, August 9th, 2018. So I'm behind on doing my Space Force and what's what at the DOD. Now, do you get any? Do you use the DOD newsroom?
No.
All right. No. So where do we get this speech or this
latest
article?
Go on to Black Vault.
Oh, go to John's place.
John's place, because he is, and he acknowledges that he's not the only one that got this answer.
Oh, so
Swedish guy got this answer too.
Oh, John cited this. Okay. Well,
yeah.
He has me in his black vault years ago when I was way long, probably 2006 or 7, when I was explaining classified from. But he cited my source on UFO Digest in his black vault. All right, so folks, we're going to refer you to Black Vault, and they have a Black Vault radio hosted by John Greenwald Jr., but they also have Black Vault, which is, I'm trying to find that because my computer took me
It's on Facebook.
Picture. Oh, you
it's
even
on
have
Facebook.
He has
There's several. He talks about getting that letter from DOD several places on Facebook.
Okay, well, I'll just put Black Vault Facebook then.
Or John Greenwald.
Says I'm following it. Let's see, restricted area, authorized personnel only, photos. So he covered this extensively. He's got videos. He's got a nice Facebook. Help continue the Black Vault possible, $1 a month. So grateful for the Amazon reviews on his Inside the Black Vault. I'm looking to see where he may have put in that. Does he have a Black Vault blog?
He's got a Facebook page.
Well, I'm on it right now. I'm just looking for anything that may. I'll look at his
it should
post.
be, like I say, it's about 5 days ago, 7 days ago. So
help continue to make. I don't see anything on post other than here it is. So grateful for the. No, this is thankful for his book yesterday, 2 years ago. Today, political about secret Pentagon UFO program. 2 years later, the Pentagon says there's no UFO program. The guy claims to have been the director
right
of
there.
it. So yesterday at 4:10 p.m. is what you've been citing and talking about. Okay, I'll like that, and I will share it. Folks, share now public, so people will know we're discussing this on our radio show here with Jan Aldrich, who is helping us so gratefully with the UFO Association and getting organized on our radio programs and all this thousands and thousands of people, if not millions, that work in this UFO community. And we have UFOassociation.org with all these Facebook pages. Now, we're going to be linking more of our various people around the world. Now, Jan, you, Eberhard, I mentioned him in the beginning, but you said you are doing a project with Eberhard that is for exclusive data. Will you include that in one of your books with Mr. Eberhard in this movement we've got going on?
I'm gonna put it on Project 47 when I get it more, go through it and get it in a better format and everything, or better, try to scrub all the errors out of it and things like that.
All right. What about letting him use it in UFO and the extraterrestrial or alien contact movement in his book, in his PDF?
Well, that book is it's a 2-volume series, and it's about 30 years old, I think.
Well, you think it's about time for him to do a revised or part 2? He's got.
I don't think so,
2.
because it's hard to get a UFO book published, especially if it's even a little close to serious. You don't have a publisher.
What?
Dick Hall had a lot of finally Scarecrow Press, which I think published Eberhard's thing.
Right, he did.
Did UFO Evidence Volume 2, which was UFO Evidence Volume 1 went from basically the Foo Fighters up to 1963. So Volume 2 went from 64 up to the 1990s. And he had a little bit of trouble getting that published, and he's got it published. And
I strongly recommend people
second volume of UFO Evidence.
For the 2. It says UFOs and the Extraterrestrial Contact Movement, a bibliography, Volume 1, Unidentified Flying Objects, and Volume 2, the Extraterrestrial Contact Movement. But if you are a ufologist, I strongly recommend you put that into your library. It's 2 of the best. I don't know where you're going to get it for a good price, because $345, gee, that's on Amazon.
Oh, you can't get it anymore.
Yeah, it's out of date. I guess we'll be getting it anytime soon.
Yeah, there's a prohibitive cost on buying it, yes.
Now, there is the Hynek UFO report, if you're interested, for about 1995, the authoritative account of the Project Blue Book cover-up.
Well, you can get a copy of the paperback for a couple of dollars. Yeah. UFO Evidence Volume 1, you can get that for about $2.
They say they've got it on Kindle now, the J. Allen Hynek UFO report.
No doubt. But if you get UFO Evidence, you could get that for about $2. And it'll be clean and new.
Project Blue Book is $9.99 on Kindle and $17.96 in a paperback. Do you have a hard copy with Brad Steiger of Project Blue Book?
No, and I wouldn't recommend that to anybody.
Okay, it says by Brad Steiger and Donald Schmidt.
I would say that the Ruppelt's report on unidentified flying objects, which a lot of people have never read, and that's the...
I did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you then you know
I'm
that
old.
yeah, it's important. But everybody I talk to said, "Oh yeah, I have a copy at home. I'm going to read it sometime." And the UFO evidence, that's another one that's I think a must read. Although some people say, well, it's confusing, but I don't find it confusing. And like I said, both of those are so cheap. It's almost criminal. So.
Do you cover the Thomas Mantell case in 48 in Project 47 in depth in Kentucky at the Godman Field?
I got a little bit about it. It's not. It's a
Who
classic.
covered that?
Everybody knows about it. So you can, what I cover is things that I found that are not that well known. That's basically what I tried to do. Things that are new discoveries that have been sitting around undiscovered for years. That's the kind of stuff I do. I don't do the well-known cases much. I mean, sometimes you can't avoid it. I mean, you can't avoid Washington.
Well, Janet, you got a question for him? Because I've got to go to the next show, but we got about 5 minutes. We started late today, Jan, but I guess we can catch up. Now, do you want to do next week?
Yeah, I could do next week if you want, yeah.
It's the day before Christmas.
That's okay.
Okay, Janet, you want to get involved
Hi.
here with Jan? Got anything you want to leave on?
I thought it was a great show. I was listening. I couldn't really talk or leave it on because of the noise over here. We got a little wall of the noise, but it's coming back right now. But I want to thank you for everything you did today, and I guess we'll see you next week. And have a nice holiday. I know I've got to run to a show, and so does TJ. So, that's about all today. Thank you so much for
inviting me.
And
Janet.
Okay, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Jan.
Yes,
now, Jan, do you know about Bob Brown? You've got him, Janet. We booked Bob Brown of the Laughlin UFO conference, right?
Bob Brown is scheduled for this Friday with you on the 20th. Ronnie Dawson is on with us on the 19th at 4 to 6 Eastern. And Bob Brown will be 8 to 10 Eastern on with Theresa J. Morris. And then he's coming back again on the 26th with me and Theresa. Hopefully my roof will be done by then. Should be. That's what we have coming up.
All right. So, and Jan Aldrich is a huge orator and doing a great job with oral archives and handling a lot of things. And this was more current. We were started over sort of, but we've got all the way up to 9. So this is actually starting over again on this will be more, this was more update, but I will put book 2 and I'm going to put episode 1 for everybody. So this started book 1 today. No, book 2, episode 1 today, Janet, for oral reports. And just so you know, Jan, this will begin, this is like the forward to your second book in archives, episode 1. So we're going to cut them off at 9 or 10 chapters, Janet, because this is a lot for anybody to transcribe, if you know what I mean. Janet and I, we'll put it on YouTube and we'll get the transcription already transcribed. That's the plan, right, Janet? Our book?
Well, you still have to go over it because they don't always get all the words right, so it takes editing.
Okay.
It's not like you can just grab it and go. But at least it gets, if you were to get a transcriber, this show would cost $500 to $1,000 for a transcriber, to do all the episodes. So we're doing it the quick and easy way that what we can afford because none of us are rich. So.
Tom told me that he is able to hire transcribers at really low rates. There's just people that want to do this kind of stuff, especially in the Midwest.
Well, if you have any of that information, please email us. Email me at aquarianradio@gmail.com because that'll help us get books out fast.
Well, I think he just said he went online and he was able to find a whole bunch of people. Now, some of them take a little longer than others, but he's been transcribing. We have over 200 oral histories.
Wow.
That Tom has done. I've helped on some of them, and he's slowly getting them transcribed.
Well, good. Yeah. Tell Tom to grab
contact
these.
Me then.
Yeah,
and then we can get them done.
But we'd like to have them, so there we go. All right. Well, we'll Tom. What's Tom's last name, Jan?
Tulane.
Tom Tulane. Is he on your Facebook
page? Go to Sign Oral History Project.
Okay. Sign Oral History Project. And that's where we'll find him?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Sign Oral History Project, May 1999. Janet, and then we'll find Tom Tulane there. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll keep helping everybody. Thank you, Jan. This is quite a good job you're doing here, and we look forward to next week. So thank you. Okay. Everybody, see y'all next week, same time, same station. Thank you, Jan Aldrich. Thank you, Janet Lesson. And people are asking me if I'm ready to go on the other channels. So we're heading over to revolution.radio, folks. Thank you, Jan, right here on TJMRCT Radio with ACO Radio. Thank you, everybody. We're getting out of here now. Thank you, Jan Aldrich. Thank you, everybody.